Hello, welcome to the Minimalist CDC. My name's Chris, and today I'm really excited because it is another new knife day. That's right, this is another knife I got off of the Reddit for Knife Swap, and I paid a little bit of the aftermarket tax on this one because I was not smart enough to get it when it first launched, but I am really excited to have this in hand. This is the TW Price Dawn. And so you're maybe asking, who is TW Price? Tyler Price is a young designer out of California. He's like 20 years old. This is his first foray into knife making, as far as I know, and the first model knocked it out of the park. And so let's get into this, and I'm going to show you a little bit why I think this is an exceptional knife and is just such a me knife that I'm excited to get into there. So the package itself is kind of nice. You end up with a cardboard box, but it's black and classy and has the silver embossed logo. We have what looks to be a hand stamped wax seal in the box, which I've never seen something like that before. It looks amazing. And then production information, first production run, M390, bead blast, all that. But getting into the box, yeah, the presentation is great. And like, I don't know if this originally came in any sort of cellophane or anything. I am getting it off the secondary, but I appreciate the little crinkles in here. That's a cool touch, and the handwritten thank you with the serial number on it. That is awesome as well. So the Dawn is an exceptionally me knife. It has a lot of the features that I want in a knife, and I am kind of giddy about having access to it. So let's get into it. I want to show you, start off with size comparisons real quick, just to knock that out of the way against our American $2 bill. There we go, right there. And another knife that I'm going to draw some comparisons to during this talk is going to be the Benchmade Bug Out. You can probably see why. Another knife that we'll have some comparison talks with is the Sharp by Design Mini Tempest. And then, why not, because it's sitting right here, another drop point, the Civivi Elementum. So you can kind of see that it's a medium range size knife. It's not exceptionally large, but it's not a fifth pocket knife either. So one of the things that drew me to this knife is just the sleek design. The milling that goes diagonally across the handle, kind of see that right here. It's textured, but it's not sharp in any way. It's just grippy. We have a two-tone type of situation going on with the blade. So we have like a hand rub satin that goes horizontally along the blade, but also like in here, I can't tell exactly. It looks somewhat stonewashed, but it is just a different type of texture. It just pops that in that fuller, and you have the little TW Price logo in the fuller itself. On the back side, more of the same. Hand washed. The fuller is that kind of stonewashy looking texture, and then we have this pop of color around the pivot, which I adore. I like a sterile blade, but I also really enjoy that just a little bit of interest to draw your eye, and that the pivot color being an anodized purple is just phenomenal. Purple is one of my favorite colors. I wish I could get a few more little pops of color, maybe the screws anodized or something like that, but I think the screws are steel, to be honest with you, but we'll get into that later. And probably through the disassembly, we'll talk more about the hardware and whatnot. But getting back to the aesthetics of the whole thing, it just appeals to me. And it has that classic knife shape that drop points tend to have. So smooth lines, decent amount of belly. Yeah, that is sharp too. That's nice. But it's just that classic pocket knife folder shape that I like. I also like the fact that there's some attention to detail that has been taken on the handle itself. So this isn't just a straight line or a continuous arc. You can kind of see that there's try to show this. It recurves in a little bit here and then over the hump, then down. So when in the hand, it takes into account the natural shape of your hand, where the indentation of your palm would fit here, and then the swell of the backs of the knife actually fits into the palm. And then going more with ergonomics, so when you're holding this, your finger fits right here into this choil, and then these spaces as well. I kind of like how my two middle fingers fit into this area, and then my pinky finger fits right there. Everything is locked in and secure. So your overhand grip, it feels real good. Turn it around if you were going to do like that, the apple carving like type of grip, that feels good. I really don't use any sort of like overhand grip, so that's not really my style or anything I use it for. But like overall, ergonomics are phenomenal, and the ergonomics don't have to give up anything to the aesthetics of why this is a pretty knife. On the backside, we have a milled titanium pocket clip that has a really nice piece of design in here that gets overlooked on a lot of knives. So let's see if I can show you you see how the milling has ended up being flat right here? That little space, it's a landing space. So when this goes in and out of your pocket, it's titanium on smooth titanium underneath that pocket clip. And there's so many other knives that have a texture or something like that where the texture will actually just end up tearing up your pockets. It acts kind of like saw teeth. And this knife won't do that because the designer has taken that extra special attention to put a landing zone for the pocket clip on there. Amazing. I really, really appreciate that. So, getting back to the mechanics of the knife, there's a couple things that I kind of want to talk about. The opening mechanism for this, it looks to be very simple, right? Just a simple front flipper. And the front flipper works good. So we have jimping up the front. We have a little jimp on the top. I'm guessing that's just for aesthetics. I can't imagine you ever being able to use that for anything. And then when it's closed, well, maybe I'm completely wrong. I see that jimp on the top, it's more than a jimp. It's actually where the stop pin rests. Okay, excellent. Well, that's why we kind of go through these with fresh eyes, so we can kind of discover these things. So yeah, that isn't a jimp. It is a stop pin groove. Very cool. And it kind of hides itself with the rest of what's going on in the blade. So the jimps are crisp and sharp. They catch your finger and allow you to get it out. So let's try that again. Almost. There we go. Have to find the right angle of attack. For this model, it looks like it's a little bit higher. I was trying to go lower on the jimping and just kind of roll my finger around, but that wasn't working. So getting higher on the knife and then just flicking it open, that'll work. But yeah, the thumb flip is good. So the other opening mechanism, and it's kind of subtle, is these fullers. So when you have a fuller like that, you can do this a couple different ways. And I'll show you how I do it and the way I've seen other people do it. Like you can get your fingernail underneath that fuller and pop it out. You can also get the meat of your finger underneath there and flick it out. I am not good at that opening method. I'm probably just going to embarrass myself here. Yeah, it's doable. I've seen thousands of people do it, but the way I normally do this is the actual bezel right here looks like it's been knocked down a little bit, but up here it's actually not sharp but more crisp, and so I can get the meat of my finger underneath that, and well, there we go. So I can get the meat of my finger underneath that and send it right out. So I'm noticing a little bit of a lockup issue. And so some of what you've seen me failing this is completely user error and me not being really accustomed to this one just yet. But one thing, right there, I flicked it out with what I felt was enough force to open it up, and it looks like it's open, but it's not. If you see this, that extra little bit to engage the lock bar hadn't happened yet. And what I can see happening here is, so right now the mechanism is up on top of the detent ball. So it's right now the point of interface is the detent ball. But once that detent ball rolls off, you can see that the lock bar actually engages with the tang of the blade. And there's friction between the lock bar and the blade the back of the blade surface. So from here and it's only like about a centimeter to there to open. It's the force of this detent bar is pushing in onto the face of that steel, and so when that happens, there's friction. And if in this type of mechanism where it's just the right amount of force to get this out, it's going to stop the blade right there sometimes. If you have enough opening force, it's going to bypass that, but you can see like it's holding it against the force of gravity right now. If I were to relieve that lock bar pressure, it just falls down. But it's enough to resist the force of gravity. So it is holding the blade. And let me try to address that in the disassembly. I can see that the geometry is a little sharp up here. So maybe some oil, maybe a little bit light sanding may get that to where I want it. But if I'm using the top flipper, I can easily put enough force to overcome that. That's not the issue. It's just the lighter engagement from using your thumb. And I'm not even going to try because there's so many people that can use this area to flick it out. Rolling it out is not an issue, but flicking it here, I surprised myself. It is, so it's definitely doable, as you can see, but I'm not good at that whatsoever. I'm much more a back flipper or top flipping. But that's going to be interesting. I'm very curious to get this thing apart and service it and see what's going on with that, because just that 1 centimeter of friction is, just in the short time I've had it, I've seen it cause a couple of the flicks to fail. And so let me show you, because I did want to talk about it in comparison with this knife, because on the surface, as you can see, they're very similar in shape. They're both top flipping, front flipping mechanisms, but this one, and I'm going to try to show you the way Brian Nadeau does his detent system. Like right now it's on the face of the lock bar face with the detent ball, and he uses a detent ramp. It's a little bit different, but same concept. The second it leaves that, it locks up. Like so with the force of gravity, as soon as I take my hand off holding the blade, it pops into place. Whereas this one, the force of gravity is not going to alleviate that situation. But the second I remove the friction point, it locks into place. So that's going to be one nitpick I have about this, is I wish that the detent ball was a little lower on the, or the lockup was a little bit later. That way this would be alleviated. And I may be able to do a little bit of internal work on this to fix that, but that's just one small nitpick. Looking at the rest of it, I've seen a lot of comparisons online to the Benchmade bug out, and some comparisons are warranted and some are not. So some people are saying, oh, it's just a Benchmade clone or just a bug out clone, and that's missing the point. It's doing a lot of the same things that the bug out is doing, but the bug out is doing them in completely different ways. So the lockup is an axis, the opening is a thumb stud. Don't find that at all here. This is a classic knife shape. The only relevant comparison I see here is the footprint of these knives. They definitely occupy a similar footprint. If you were to put one on top of the other, it kind of eclipses it. So that being said, I don't see an issue with two knives being the same size, obviously. No one has a copyright or a patent on the footprint a knife takes up on the table. But that being said, we're here to talk about this knife, not the comparison between other knives. Concluding thoughts, I think this is an amazing knife. It's definitely a very me aesthetic. It has the intrigue and interesting lines that I like. It has detailed milling that I'm very much in favor of. The pop of color is very good. I'm just going to go into a very few nitpicks over what I would like to see improved in future models. I would like to see a detent system more akin to the Tempest with a detent ramp, or the detent ball being moved higher in the lock bar so you don't get this much friction on the tang of the blade on the lock bar. Personally, I would like to see that these two screws removed from the show side. I'm very much a fan of a clean show side, and I think that there's a few trade-offs that could be done. If there was a post here and then the screw just screwed into here, you wouldn't need this screw. And then there is the trade-off of if you remove this, there would have to be a screw through the pocket clip to secure this. I'm not a knife designer. I don't pretend to be. It just seems from an engineering standpoint that there is a solution to have a complete and sterile hardware-free show site here. Lastly, I would like the option for a stonewash blade. The lines is in a knife is something that very much appeals to me. You'll hear me talk about lines on a bunch of other knives, and so I like that you have the horizontal lines here. They're kind of at an angle. They're coming down and to the right, but the lines on the blade from the hand wash satin are completely in a different direction. They're going this way, and so just to maybe my own neuroses, looking at this type of knife, I would like to see only one pattern. And I like the pattern on the handle. I don't want another pattern on the blade, so I'd like to see this whole thing stonewashed. And it may be something I could do. I know that reach out to the Knife Modders or some other person on Instagram that does knife modding and see if I could get that done. That would be really cool. Another thing that I would like to do aftermarket, I think, is if I could get the pocket clip anodized the same color as the pop of color here on the pivot collars, I think that would be phenomenal, just to have those match. But other than that, and I'm just nitpicking, I think this is a gorgeous knife. I think that Tyler did a amazing job with putting this knife together and designing it, especially for his first foray into this world. It is a phenomenal first knife, and I'm a fan. I'll be looking forward to more of his work and seeing what comes out in the future. So this has been the TW Price Dawn. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Like and subscribe. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.